Hello, we are live in my basement. Happy Throat Punch Thursday. I'm very excited for the Filipino Martial Arts class today, or the Kali class, the Screamo, whatever you choose to call it. So today we're going to be doing double stick, which is very exciting for me. And as you guys know, everything is going to have always a footwork flair or a footwork focus to it today. So we're going to warm up a little bit with just some really basic kind of footwork, and then talking into kind of how to spin correctly and getting into what I think is going to be great for people training at home or training outside. We're going to do running attacks today, which is going to be super, super fun. So if you haven't done already, make sure you like, subscribe, and share the video. That helps kind of promote everything. And if you'd like to support the channel, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. I have a link in the comment sections. And as always, if you have any questions, please write them in the comment section. I will always answer the questions at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and do our double stick. Most people who have done Kali for any length of time have done head and six. So it's going to be inward, backhand, backhand, inward, backhand, backhand. And that's all we're going to do just to warm up today. So we have inward, backhand, backhand, inward, backhand, backhand. I'm really trying to focus on keeping my wrist straight, and then also really pulling at the last moment of impact with the last two fingers to get this kind of snap at the end. So I'm not pushing the sticks. I'm actually hitting through because we're smashing skulls, guys. So we're just going to go inward, backhand, backhand, inward, backhand, backhand, just nice and smooth to warm up. Now, because you don't have that nice little sound you make when you guys hit sticks when you're kind of doing carenza, what I want you to be able to do is, one, have a conversation while you do it, or in my case, teach. And you should be able to walk forward and walk backwards with this pretty easily. We're just walking to warm up. Walk forward and walk backwards. Okay. Our next thing we're going to do to warm up is we're going to circle and then circle the other way while we do this. Circle, circle, and then circle the other way, making sure that we can do all this footwork. We're crossing over our feet, which I know feels really weird. And then I always like to add, so we should be able to go to a knee and then back up. Or, for those guys who are more ambitious, go to a knee, windshield wiper, basically go for a guard or a mount position, and then get back up without stopping, and then come back up and do it again. And the reason why I think it's really important to move while you're doing your carenza is that a lot of times when people focus on Kali for the first time, they really want to focus on what the hands are doing. But you want to get this so much into almost habitual into the body that you should just be able to have a conversation and move fairly easily while you do it. But also I think it's really important just for the health of your body to be moving in lots of different ways, just to kind of keep your coordination level up. That's why I love Kali so much, because it's one of the very few arts I think, no matter where you are in your life, you can keep training it. I had a wonderful conversation with Greg Nelson yesterday over Zoom, and he says he still, even before the quarantine, still does carenza every single day to warm up in the morning. And I think that's amazing. And so that's something that I think I'm going to try to add more of into my life, because I'm more of an impact kind of gal. But I think just kind of moving the body and then adding the footwork just kind of helps keep our body healthy. So the more you move, because I know a lot of us are sitting around your home, carenza is just a great way to kind of keep your body moving. And then for me, this has done so much for the rehab of my shoulders, but also for my coordination level. Because you're using both sides of your body, and I'll be completely transparent, I hated double stick because I always got caught up, and I don't even know how many times I used to hit myself in the head when I would do this. But it's going to cross-section your corpus callosum, which is going to help both sides of your brain, so it helps you retain information better, or just memory. So just really consider doing this. So we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to go, instead of inward, backhand, backhand, inward, backhand, backhand, all we're going to do now is inward, backhand, inward, inward, backhand, inward, inward, backhand, inward, inward, backhand, inward. Now we're gonna add walking. And then backwards. Circle. Circle the other way. Okay, and if you want, you can go to a knee. Or if you want to be a little more ambitious, you can go to our back or our guard position, which is always weird. Just want to not hit the wall. And finish. And that's just a great way to warm up. And I have a mirror here, and also I can look at the camera, so I can always see kind of where my targets are hitting. So I always recommend getting the camera, get a mirror, kind of see where your targets are. So now that we've done inward, backhand, and then inward, backhand, inward, we're going to try isolate the Aura Beast today. And the reason why we're isolating the Aura Beast and the footwork for it is because we're going to be doing spinning stuff and running attacks. So today we're going to be starting St. Raphael. They're all named different things depending on the system. So we're just kind of breaking it up, but I want to really isolate the footwork. So anytime there's a spin in techniques, people are always like, ugh, spin and shit, like Nate Diaz it. But you have to understand, when you do a spin, you're not just spinning for the heck of it. You're surveying this entire area. So that's the idea behind this. We're surveying multiple opponents that could be around us. So that's something you want to consider. So we're going to do the Aura Beast first. So the orbit, so this is the redondo. We're coming from the forehand side. The Aura Beast is going to come from the opposite side. So this is going to come from the backhand side. This took me forever to get. I want to thank Paul, my co-star for Throw Punch Thursday, who helped me a lot with this about like 5 years ago. I had such a hard time with it. I definitely almost hit myself in the head all the time. So when I do my orbit, it's coming on the backhand side. So if you want to go backhand, 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 backhand. So we're just going to isolate this. So it's basically 3 backhands. Backhand, 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 backhand. But it's always coming from the backhand side. So we're going to add this with a spin. So when I'm in my stance, when I come forward with Aura Beast, I bring the rear foot with me. And the reason I do this is that when I spin and step, I'll already be where I need to be to follow up on my running attack. So I'm surveying the area and then coming forward. So my rear foot comes behind me. Notice I still have my guard here. I orbit. Now, when I hit my next shot and I spin, there's my 3 backhands. So, Aura Beast, backhand, backhand. Okay. And I find that's easier than trying to run and just like spin in place. You might as well just do this. So we're having a little more precision with the footwork. So as I step to the orbit, my rear foot comes behind me. I hit the knee. Now I spin. There's my next backhand. Other side. There's another side. I don't believe it. So I hit my orbit, my Aura Beast. Rear foot comes behind me. Now I'm just going to pivot on my toes. So just like my spinning techniques in Thai, I always want to look with my head first before I go. So orbit, hit, spin, hit again. And remember, lead with your eyes, lead with your head. Don't lead with just blindly. It's very important. Orbit, hit, spin, hit again. So now we're going to take all of these and we're going to combine them into St. Raphael. Now, St. Raphael is just really, like, I don't think it's super complicated because I like to break things up into segments, which makes it easier. So I like to think of, there's tons of different ways to chamber your sticks. Today we're going to start open. Okay, we're going to hit it on a bestiario 3. So it's going to be an inward, a low backhand, and a high backhand. Now once I do that, I'm going to step at orbit. Okay, my orbit, backhand, spin, backhand, chamber, inward, backhand, inward. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing. So now we're going to do the same thing, but backwards. The receiver will not spin. So if you're doing this with a partner, the other person is just walking or running backwards. Because these are running attacks, not saunter attacks. So these are great if you want to train outside and you just want to get some exercise. These are the best ones for it. We're going to go really slow. So we're going to start open on the right-hand side, inward, low backhand, high backhand, or a beast, spin, inward, backhand, inward. Now we're open again. We're going to start on the left side now. So inward, low backhand, high backhand. Now, or a beast, spin, inward, backhand, inward. Now we're open again. And that is the whole thing. So it's just 3 components. And you can do this forward or retracting. If you're doing it backwards, you're just going to hit the 3 backhands and receive them. You're not going to spin. So from the very beginning, we're going to start on the right-hand side again. Inward, low backhand, high backhand. Step or a beast, low backhand, spin, backhand. Inward, backhand, inward. Okay, now we're open on the other side. Inward, low backhand, high backhand, or a beast. Low backhand, backhand, inward, backhand, inward. Now if I was going backwards, it'd be low backhand, high back, okay, inward, low backhand, high backhand. Now if the person does orbit, I orbit too, hit the low, then hit the high again. I'm just going to receive. Now once this comes back, inward, backhand, inward. They come at me again, I'm going backwards, inward, low backhand, high backhand. They come at me, I orbit to receive it. 2, 3, inward, backhand, inward. Now, right now we're going super slow and I have a very limited amount of space down here. But the goal is that when I'm doing this, I'm running at the person. I'm coming forward with some sort of velocity. But what usually maxes everybody up is this. So if you get used to stepping behind and timing that on your orbit, it'll be easier to get straight into the spin. And you'll have your balance too. Now some people, they prefer to just step. But that's, one, doesn't look pretty. But 2, I think there's less finesse with it. This is also more subtle. It doesn't look as like I'm covering as much distance as I am here to here. Okay, so I want you to start really slow when you're walking with this. So we're going really slow, really slow. And then we're coming back really slow, really slow. Okay, what I don't want you to do is keep that step and slide stance the whole time. I have one of my students, I looked at him one day and he's doing these writing tasks. I'm like, dude, just walk backwards. And he's like, oh, it's much easier that way. Because if you try to keep your stance all the time when you're running, someone's running at you, it's physically impossible. They're always going to run you over. So the least you can do is walk backwards as you're receiving. So when you're practicing this, I recommend get outside once you get comfortable with the footwork and then really just run at it. And I know it's hard when you don't have a target, but I think visualization is a really important skill that a lot of people need to master. And I think Kali's one of the best ones to do it with Carenza. But I think having a running attack or a set pattern, especially if you're newer, kind of gives you a little bit more room to play with versus being like, I'm just going to make it up as I go along. So one more time, we're going to go inward, low backhand, high backhand. Or a beast, backhand, backhand, inward, backhand, inward. Now if I'm coming backwards, inward, low backhand, high backhand. They're going to orbit, I go inward, backhand, inward. Okay, that's all we're doing. This is St. Raphael of the running attacks under the Dan Inosanto blended lacrosse system. So I hope everyone found this beneficial. I personally really like running attacks. They're fun, especially if you do them with a partner. So if you have someone to train at home, this is going to be a great one to train at home. But it's also a great one just to do outside. So, but make sure, the big thing is, and this is kind of a proponent of what I've gone over the last however many weeks of doing the Kali, you have to move. So moving your feet, because the number one defense is don't be there. But also the same is true with offense, overwhelming force coming forward. It's very difficult to deal with, especially if you have a big blunt object. So I'm gonna use this opportunity now to take questions. I know it was like very short today, but hopefully everyone found it beneficial. If anyone needs to see it again, please let me know. Are there any questions about anything that we've done today? Or do we need to see it again? Okay, well, as always, I want to say thank you guys so much for those guys who are tuning in weekly on Throw Punch Thursday to watch the classes. Hopefully everyone is safe and healthy. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the video. And if you want to support the channel, you can consider becoming a patron on Patreon. The suggested pledge is like $5 a month, and that helps me kind of put out more content. I have a really special live class. Oh, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate you enjoying the flow. If you need to see it again, please let me know. I'd be more than happy. So anyone always gets some people who just tuned in. I personally love that running attack. If everyone really likes the running attacks, I'll do a new one every week. So everyone has some like different stuff to play with, especially double stick. And especially as the weather gets nicer, I think double stick is just great to just do some running attacks outside. It's like super fun. So I have a special kind of class / podcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'm doing philosophy and fighting, women in martial arts. Please encourage people to kind of tune in and ask their questions live. I'm glad everyone enjoyed the flow. I do appreciate that, Mike. If there are no other questions, guys, I know today was really short. Oh yeah, yes, you're right, Mike. There's so many similarities between different systems in Kali, which is kind of fun. So I always encourage everybody to train as many different systems of Kali or martial arts in general, because I think it just is going to, instead of seeing how the arts are different, it will show you how the arts are similar. And I think it's like it's going to just broaden your perspective. But I love running attacks. They're fun. But also there's like a physicality to them, and I love moving. It's fun. So thanks, Mike. If there are no other questions, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in, even if it's 5, 10, 20 minutes. You guys really make this worthwhile for me to get in from a camera day in, day out and kind of keep teaching. It keeps me motivated. So I really appreciate it. So you guys have a wonderful day and happy Throw Punch Thursday.